female anatomy. So this is the uterus, right? These are the uterine horns. It's a V-shaped uterus in a cat, right? Where the two horns come together, right here, this is called the body of the uterus. Just below the body of the uterus, which we'd have to reach down in here, but just below the body of the uterus is the cervix, and then finally at the very end, under the spat someplace, is the, right there, is the vagina. Okay, right at the very end is the vagina. Okay? At the end of each uterine horn is an ovary. So, that little, see that little round thing in the middle, right there?
Mm-hmm.
That's the ovary. This is the oviduct. Okay? And there should be one on the other side too. There's a lot of blue over here though. It's not as nice over here. Okay? So uterine horn, ovary, oviduct. Okay? The uterus has to be attached to the back body wall to keep it in this orientation, right? Especially when they get pregnant. So all this membrane here, this is actually called the broad ligament. This little string right here, you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Right there? That's called the round ligament, and both of those keep it in the right orientation. And then attached at the top here to each ovary is an ovarian ligament. Okay? So it's just broad, round, ovarian. Okay? You can also see, let's see what her kidneys are. This is her urinary bladder, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here is one. Oh my gosh, she's pretty fat. There's one ureter coming down from this kidney. Right? Here it is. Right there. Under all that crud coming up from the kidney. Okay? That's the ureter. That carries the filtrate from the kidney, store it in the bladder. Okay, and there's one coming down on the other side from the other kidney. Maybe. Yep, here it is right here. This is the ureter coming down on this side from this kidney. Comes in over here. Fills up the bladder. This tube back here, coming out of the bladder right here. This is the urethra. Right? Carries the urine out of the body. And if you feel right here and here, you can feel the pubic symphysis. You remember what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Right where the two halves of the pubis come together, right there. That's where they crack her open. That's one sad little cat. If we do the female, the human female, this is the human female. So orient yourselves again. This is the urinary bladder. This is the urethra coming out of the bladder. Okay. This is the uterus. This is the rectum, and then this is the anus. Okay. So the uterus, which is this right here, there's 3 layers of tissue in the uterus. The outer one is the perimetrium. The middle one is the myometrium, and the one lining the inside is the endometrium. Okay, coming down here, this is the cervix, which is the opening to the uterus. This right here, this opening is called the fornix, and then this is the vagina coming out. Okay, you come up here. This thing here, this yellow thing, is the ovary. Okay, so then this is the fallopian tube and the oviduct. And if we look at the end of this oviduct, it's got all these little feathery things here, right? So what you have is you have your ovary, right? Once a month, a mature egg is released for fertilization. So you have your oviduct around your ovary with your little feathery things here called the fimbriae. So when that, hello, when that egg is released, the fimbriae actually sweep the egg up into the fallopian tube, right? It travels down here, and then the sperm travel up to meet it. Fertilization happens in the fallopian tube, and then the embryo is implanted in the wall of the uterus. Okay? Good? Okay, let's set her aside.
What is that?
I don't know why he's been there, but poor thing. Okay, so this is the scrotum, right, which is the sac outside of the body that contains the testicles. The testicles have to be outside because 98.6 is too hot for sperm. Okay, so wow. So that's unfortunate. The sperm are made in the testicle. They travel up the spermatic cord, which was ripped right here. and then they have to go through that abdominal wall, that inguinal wall. They come through. They come through here, and they loop right over. So here's our spermatic cord here, right? Comes in, and it loops right over what was left of the ureter. Oh, he's kind of tore up here, unfortunately. Anyway.
Is there a better male
The
around?
spermatic, not too much. The spermatic cord comes up, comes through the inguinal wall, comes into the abdomen, and then it actually crosses. Here's the ureter, in here somewhere. Right here, in here. See the tube coming down here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I can't get it. He's so fat. Okay. Anyway, there's the ureter coming down, carrying the filtrate down from the kidney. That spermatic cord crosses over behind that, and then joins behind here, down in here. It joins the urethra, which is coming out of the bladder. Right? The urethra is the common passageway for sperm and urine in the male. And this one actually, you see that little bulb right there? That's the prostate gland right there. It's just behind the prostate where those spermatic cords are coming in. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then we follow that urethra down and out through the penis. Okay? So if we look at the human male model, this will become a little more obvious. Now, here's the scrotum, right, outside the body.
Oh, yeah.
This is the testicle. This structure is called the epididymis. And this is the spermatic cord coming up. Comes through that inguinal wall, through that abdominal wall. And sometimes this opening can rip in guys.
A hernia.
And then you have, right, then you have the intestines coming out down here. And then they have to go in, and that's an inguinal hernia, they have to go in and patch that up. So the spermatic cord comes up, comes through the abdominal wall, comes around the bladder. This is the bladder. We're coming around the bladder here. And now here we are right here. Here's our spermatic duct. Okay? And that's going to join the urethra, which is the tube coming out of the bladder. Okay? And then if we follow that urethra down, it comes all the way down through the penis and then finally exit the body. Okay? And this right here, right where that spermatic cord joins the urethra, this right here represents the prostate gland, which we actually could see quite well in this particular cat right there. That's the prostate gland. The function of the prostate gland and the function of the other little glands, which you can't see in him, and I'm not really sure where they are in this model, a bunch of little glands called bulbar urethra glands. The function of all of those is just to add fluid to the sperm, because the sperm are flagellated, right? They have to be motile to swim to the egg, so you got to have fluid. So that's the function of the prostate gland. And as guys get older, sometimes this prostate gland becomes enlarged, and what that does is it puts pressure on the urethra, so they feel like they have to urinate, but they can't urinate because that urethra is being compressed by the prostate gland. Okay? If we look at the structure of the penis itself, okay, the end is called the gland of the penis. This is the shaft of the body of the penis. And if we open this up a little bit here, we have this layer of tissue right here. This is cavernosum. This is erectile tissue. And then there's spongiosum, which is tissue that lines either side of that urethra. Okay? Alright, let's put him back together and let's look at our bull testicle. Oh,
Little?
it's a baby bull testicle, actually.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. The full-grown one, I've felt is like this big, and it's literally like that big around. It's the most disgusting thing.
Yeah, that's
Okay, so this is the spermatic cord right here, coming up from the testicle, right? So that's all the blood vessels and the duct itself carrying the sperm up to go into the abdomen. This right here, this layer of muscle, is called cremaster muscle, and that surrounds that spermatic cord because when it gets cold, this has to be retracted up into the abdomen to protect the sperm. Okay? There are 2 layers of membrane that cover the testicle. There's the vaginalis, which is the outer one, and there's the albuginea, which is the inner one. Okay? If we pull all that out of the way, so now here's our testicle. This U-shaped piece of tissue right here is called the epididymis. This is the tail of the epididymis. This is the head up top of the epididymis. And if we peel open that testicle, we see in there,
Ooh.
it doesn't look like much now, but if you could look at that microscopically, you would see a whole bunch of tiny little microscopic tubules. Those are the seminiferous tubules, and that's where the sperm are actually produced. So they go from there into the epididymis, come up here, out through the spermatic cord, out through that duct, into the abdomen, joins the urethra, out of the body.
Oh.
Okay? Okay. Kidney. I have my kidney model. We'll do the basic anatomy. So the outside is the capsule. Okay? Where the little niche is in the kidney, or the kidney bean, the little niche there, that's called the hilus, and that's where the renal artery and the renal vein and the tube coming out of the kidney called the ureter, that's where they all exit at that point. Okay? So if we look inside the kidney, you see this outer ring of tissue here. This is called the cortex of the kidney. And that's where you have all of that vascular connection, right? All the capillaries coming in to the kidney because the kidney filters your blood, right? This inside part is the medulla of the kidney, and in the medulla, you have these little triangular shaped structures. Those are called the renal pyramids. Okay? And it's in the renal pyramids where actual filtration happens. And then right at the ends of the pyramids, the filtrate drips out into little spaces, little open spaces right at the end, okay, called the minor calyxes. Those pool into larger openings called major calyxes. And those dump into this big opening here in the center, and that's called the renal pelvis. And what that is basically an enlargement of the ureter, which is the tube leading out of the kidney and down to the bladder. Okay? Sometimes you can see little bits of this cortex tissue pushing down in between the pyramids. Those are called the renal columns. I don't know why that's terribly important, but there you go. Okay?
And the white is the nephron?
The white is the, well, yeah, this is actually represents the collecting duct of the nephron. Yep, this is the loop of Henle. You haven't done that yet, have you?
We did
You
it
did
last night.
Oh, yeah. So this is the loop of Henle, comes up, and then this is the collecting duct, and then the filtrate drips off the ends of the collecting duct. Yep. That's like the only thing my high school students remember.
The loop
The
of
loop of
Henle.
Henle.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know
all I
why,
remember
but
too.
this is a cow kidney. Again, here's the hilus, right? That indent where your vein and your artery and your ureter come out. Open that thing up. So this lighter rim of tissue right here is the cortex. The middle is all the medulla. These are the renal pyramids, right? The filtrate drips right to the ends of the renal pyramids. There's tiny little openings called the minor calyxes. It pools in these larger openings called major calyxes. And then finally, I mean, if this were enclosed, right, this would be like a big bubble here. This is the renal pelvis. And then it pools there, and it exits through the ureter down to the bladder. Okay?
Easy enough.